Are these the superior Joy-Con for Nintendo Switch? That's the question we'll be diving into and answering in today's video. Ever since Nintendo Switch released, everything it touches is awesome. Like, it makes so many things so great, but there's one area in particular that we all wish was improved, and Nintendo won't do it, which is the Joy-Con itself. From the drift catastrophe to the oh my gosh, they're too small and cramp my hands for long sessions issue, to the problem that I just rather play with a Pro Controller at all times. Nobody's figured it out. Enter a contender. The Nyxi Wizard is a Wi-Fi solution to the Joy-Con problem, and what makes this stand apart is that normally when they do this, when they try to put better sticks, bigger grips on the Switch, it can't separate. It's like, it's on the Switch for good, and you just play it that way, and it's nice, but you have no other use. You can't take it off. And this is trying to be a solution. So it has great Nintendo Switch play in portable mode and fantastic dock play as well, because it is wireless. Now, what makes this even sweeter is that it's GameCube aesthetic without GameCube drawbacks. Okay, these things look like they were straight out of the GCN era, but as you notice, this stick ain't tiny. This stick ain't awkward, all right? It does have the button orientation from the GameCube, but I'd argue that with the Switch, a true D-pad and bigger buttons, bring them on. The Switch Joy-Con are fine, but they are sure a dainty device, and I think their cleverness has kind of kicked the can. I really hope with Switch 2, Nintendo improves this just in terms of ergonomics, form factor, maybe functionality of the D-pad, but in the meantime, Nyxi is like, dude, we've got the Joy-Con for you. It's got the rail and everything. This goes right on the Switch. You ready for this? Pikmin 4 queued up, and that's a Joy-Con. Yeah, it's a Joy-Con. Slide on the other side. I've got the fanciest, most future Switch ever. And it does feel a bit wide. Like, this is wide scale, but already my hands are saying thank you very much. And like I said, the best part is it's not restricted to just portable play. You're going to invest in a controller like this, you want it to do everything. And that's where I think this really stands apart. But now make sure to click the link in the description down below, because it helps support the existence of SwitchForce, and my link will save you some good money on the Nyxi Wizard Joy-Con, which I think you're really gonna like. Spoiler, I definitely did. Let's put it through the paces. Let's see how Switch games actually play with this as the controller configuration, and then how they work when they're not attached at all. Put through the paces of Pikmin 4, Metroid Prime Remastered, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the controller performs fantastically. And the fact that it has the ability to be attached Joy-Con, detached split Joy-Con, and sort of Pro Controller style on this nice middle rail here, it's really versatile. We've got full vibration in this controller. We've got light up buttons. We've got replaceable joystick rings. So if you're not a fan of the 8-directional, you can change that out. It's labeled as the ideal controller for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I feel like this is going to be a favorite for a lot of games. It just feels really good in the hand. It's got customizable back buttons, it's got turbo buttons, and it has multiple profiles to save onto these Joy-Con and the controller itself. To me, it really feels like a jack-of-all-trades type controller, and somehow it's less than Nintendo's Joy-Con, and yet it does all of it, and in some ways, even better. The buttons are very tactile. You'll notice the triggers have a really reduced range of motion for fast firing. The buttons are pretty darn clicky themselves, although they feel good. Not sticky, not too clacky, a nice feel to the buttons. You got your minus, your plus, your home, your record, and then 2 extras for profile, 2 at the bottom for turbo, and 2 on the back that are programmable. In its Pro Controller form factor, the Wizard is highly comparable to Nintendo's. The differences are, this one has buttons that light up, and this one has Hall effect joysticks, which means no drift. The components don't actually touch, no drift. This guy has been reported at times, occasionally, to have drift, and I think these sticks, you'll like them quite a bit. Now, the button layout is slightly different. As you see, this has the tiny B, the small Y and X, and the big A, whereas here they're all equal size. But if I'm going to press these buttons, they feel pretty comparable. I'd say that the Wizard has more click to it. Nintendo's are a little bit squishier, and that's just going to come down to personal preference, but it's nothing too drastic that I think it's going to affect your enjoyment really one way or the other. Now, grip-wise, the Pro Controller from Nintendo has wider grips, but it's a more narrow controller. when we take the Wizard Joy-Con and put them on their grip, it's a wider form factor with more narrow grips, which honestly feels more comfortable to me. Your mileage may vary depending on your hands and your hand size, but for me, this is a more preferable position, and I feel a little more comfortable here than here. Even though the Pro Controller is great, I think I like the triggers better on the Wizard. This is pretty wide, but there's something satisfying about it. It's not too wide. It is wide, but I think like that's kind of the point. Like you're looking to expand the size of the Joy-Con and expand the crampedness of your hands and your arms and elbow. And this honestly, despite maybe looking unwieldy, like it really is a better fit. Like the Joy-Con would have me be about here, and that to me is more cramped. This I think is a more natural position. So they've achieved better, sticks, better components for Joy-Con while also improving like the comfortability, the flexibility, and the crampedness that Joy-Con often provide if you're, more of a portable player. I'm also a fan of the GameCube throwback. GameCube was one of the biggest moments in my life. I queued up for that console at like 10, 11 years old. It was very strange, but it set me on a video game path, and here I am. You got them in silver, you got them in purple, you got them in black. I really like the silver. I think it goes pretty darn well, but I can see a lot of people also preferring the black and maybe even the OG GameCube Indigo. Something else that appeals to me about the Wizard is just how workable it is, how interchangeable it is, the fact that everything kind of is just self-explanatory and works. These things lock in, they work well, they wirelessly sync very easily, just as if they were official Joy-Con. And then they do include this nice mid-rail, so you can effectively turn it into that Pro Controller. It basically functions as everything you need. So whereas some other big, more comfortable Joy-Con are only Joy-Con and require a separate purchase, the Wizard is kind of a one-size-fits-all, and it might be the only controller you need. That's honestly saying something, especially in an era of overpriced accessories. Controllers across the pantheon of video games have gotten more and more and more expensive, and Nintendo is no different. Joy-Con by themselves are still 80 bucks. The Pro Controller by itself is still $70. That's 150 bucks, half a system, for one of each, whereas the Wizard is just 70, saving you $80 that could go towards like 2 extra games, and you still have the multifunctionality that you desire. Weight-wise, I'm also liking it. I've played with a lot of different off-brand Nintendo Switch controllers, third-party Nintendo Switch controllers, official Nintendo Switch controllers, and weight is something that really does make a difference. Oftentimes with cheaper controllers, you're getting something that feels like it'll just fly out of your hands, whereas Nintendo's has a heft to it. I would say that the Wizard in its Pro Controller form weighs about the same here, and the Joy-Con are just right, where they're not too heavy to be an issue, but they're also not too light where they're gonna fly out. They've got rumble, they've got Hall effect, and they've just got a good feel. And if you really wanted, you can also connect these to your PC, so they even add more value and more functionality. You can do the same with Nintendo controllers, but nobody probably wants to be playing with Joy-Con if they can't help it, and that's what this helps. It like makes Joy-Con desirable, and I think that's the whole thing Nintendo should be seeking out in their development and research for Switch 2, but hey, NYXI has already made it happen. Driftless, comfortable, big sticks. We're making significant strides here. If we're talking Pro Controller versus Wizard as a Pro Controller, it's very close, but if we're talking Joy-Con versus Wizard as a Joy-Con, it's no contest. This thing does not support long gaming sessions, nor upscale play. Like, I feel like Metroid Prime Remastered is quite difficult on this thing, whereas here, like, this is a much more natural feel and fit when you're going portably, or when you just want to play wirelessly, relaxed on your couch, having your hands split. This just is not the same. It does not feel like an upscale controller, whereas this is much more comparable to, your Xbox, your PlayStation, anything else. So I gotta say, even though it was sent as a like, hey, check this out and tell us what you think, I'm so glad that I got the Wizard, because this will now be the go-to Joy-Con that I attach onto all my Switches. Yes, I have multiple, but I have tons of Joy-Con, and I'm happy to retire them for the Wizard. This is truly a significant upgrade in terms of Joy-Con, and the fact that it has multi-form functionality and can basically play grip, play Pro Controller, and play Joy-Con with wireless capability, motion control, vibration / haptics, and the Hall effect Joy-Con. I mean, what else do you need? Final verdict? If you're looking for a Joy-Con, I don't know, like the Nintendo official, like that's always what people go for, but I think this is the better pick. It's definitely better playing. It's definitely more comfortable. It definitely has more features, and it definitely won't drift. Add in that you can convert it into a grip, and that feels much more like a Pro Controller than the Joy-Con on a grip kind of feels like a why would you ever use this? I think it's safe to say the Wizard is a significant upgrade over Nintendo's own Joy-Con, and when you're trying to make a third-party controller for Switch, that's like the dream. We're better than Nintendo? Yes, the Wizard did it better than Nintendo.